Let's start with a pretty bizarre contradiction today. I mean, we hear it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That our attention spans are completely fried.
Right, exactly. The publishing industry has been panicking for, gosh, like a decade now, that smartphones have just destroyed our ability to focus.
Yeah, we're constantly told nobody has the patience for long-form content anymore.
Right. But then, at the exact same time, we have tens of millions of adults voluntarily listening to, like, 15-hour, highly complex nonfiction books.
It's wild. It fundamentally doesn't track with that narrative.
It really doesn't. I mean, if our attention spans are supposedly gone, how is long-form audio not just surviving, but experiencing this absolute explosion in popularity?
Well, it is essentially the defining paradox of modern media consumption. And the answer is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it lies in realizing that our attention spans haven't necessarily shrunk. It's more that our concept of available time has completely fractured.
Oh, I see what you mean. We don't have those massive, uninterrupted blocks of leisure time anymore.
Exactly. Traditional reading demands that solid block of time. But when you look at the source document we are diving into today, it's a really fascinating piece by independent author David Akpovy.
Right. It's titled Audiobooks, How They Are Revolutionizing the Way We Read, Learn, and Entertain Ourselves.
Yes. And when you analyze his work, you realize the medium of the book is undergoing this massive survival adaptation.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today's mission is really to explore two massive shifts outlined in Akpovy's work.
Right, the macro and the micro.
Exactly. First, we are looking at the foundational mechanics of how we consume knowledge today. And second, we are breaking down how independent creators are building these like global empires by exploiting this exact shift in listener behavior.
It's a total game changer for creators.
It really is. So whether you are actively trying to upskill your tech knowledge during your commute, or maybe you're trying to scale a side business, or honestly, you just feel completely burned out by the daily grind, this deep dive is going to show you how the publishing landscape is bending to fit the reality of your lifestyle.
To really grasp the magnitude of this shift, we have to start with the macro data from the Audio Publishers Association.
Right, because the numbers are staggering.
They really are. They're reporting over 10 consecutive years of revenue and production growth. We are looking at a global market valued in the billions right now.
Billions with a B. That is huge.
And crucially, what's fascinating here is that the data shows this is not a cannibalization of print.
Wait, so it's not killing physical books?
Not at all. Print sales remain remarkably steady. Audiobooks are tapping into an entirely different resource, which Akpovy refers to as lost time.
Lost time. I love that phrasing. I actually think of it as, well, the difference between a solid and a liquid.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, like a physical book is a solid block. To consume it, you have to aggressively clear out a block of your schedule. You have to sit down and give it your undivided visual and physical attention.
Right, you have to stop your life to do it.
Exactly. But an audiobook is a liquid. It effortlessly pours into the existing cracks of your day.
The commute, folding the laundry.
Doing the dishes, the morning run. The book is finally adapting to the listener, rather than forcing the listener to adapt to the book.
That fluid integration is exactly what Edison research data points to when looking at the demographics, actually.
Let's talk about the demographics, because I feel like there's a misconception there.
There is. You might assume the surge is driven primarily by Gen Z, just out of a sheer preference for digital mediums.
Oh, right, the digital natives.
Yeah. And while younger demographics are definitely heavy adopters, older adults are actually adopting the format at a staggering rate, too.
Really? That's surprising. Why is that?
Well, some of that is for visual comfort, sure.
Yeah.
But a massive catalyst for this frictionless adoption across all ages is the proliferation of smart speakers.
Oh, of course. The tech barrier is just gone.
Exactly. You walk into your kitchen, ask your device to resume your book, and it picks up on the exact syllable you left off on in your car.
It's seamless. But I do have to challenge this narrative just a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Over the last decade or so, we saw the massive podcast boom, right? Where everyone suddenly had audio playing constantly in the background.
Oh, yeah, the audio wallpaper effect.
Exactly. So is this audiobook explosion just a spillover from that? Because having two guys chatting in the background while you do the dishes is very different from, like, actively acquiring complex knowledge.
That is a very fair point.
Right. So are people actually absorbing this material, or is it just noise to drown out the silence?
It is a vital distinction to make.
Got it.
But the engagement metrics tracked by platforms like Spotify and Apple Books and Audible, they strongly suggest this is active, deliberate learning.
How do they know that, though?
Well, these platforms are investing billions into audiobook infrastructure, specifically because they see completion rates and user retention that totally dwarf passive listening habits.
Oh, wow. So people are actually finishing them.
Yes. What we are witnessing is the dismantling of the rigid walls we used to have between physical tasks and cognitive development.
I see. So you can be engaging in a purely physical, automated task like running on a treadmill.
Right, while your cognitive bandwidth is fully dedicated to processing a complex business strategy from a book.
That makes total sense. The brain is deeply engaged, even if the eyes and hands are occupied elsewhere.
Exactly. Which gives us the perfect lens to look at the micro level of this trend.
Yes, because it's one thing to acknowledge a multi-billion-dollar market shift.
Right, but it's infinitely more interesting to dissect how a single creator actually manages to capture a piece of that pie.
And that brings us directly to David Apovi and his 2020 vision versus his 2026 reality.
Right, so in 2020, the conventional wisdom for independent authors was that audio was a secondary, highly resource-intensive afterthought.
Yeah, you focus on the ebook and the paperback first.
Exactly. And if those generated enough revenue, you might eventually fund an audiobook. But Apovi flipped that entirely.
You went all in on audio.
He did. He saw audio as a primary, non-negotiable channel from the start. And the document provides his analytics for June 2026, which are just a direct validation of that strategy.
Let's hear the numbers.
In just 1 month, his catalog generated 3,793.9 listening minutes.
Just to put that in perspective, that is over 63 solid hours of continuous audio consumption in a 30-day window.
Right. But beyond the raw minutes, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the critical metric he highlights is 59.9 equivalent complete listens.
That is incredible.
And this audience spans ages 23 to 59, stretching across 12 different countries.
12 countries.
Yeah, with high concentrations in places as culturally and geographically diverse as the U.S., France, Benin, and New Zealand.
See, that metric, the complete listens, that is the absolute holy grail of content creation.
Oh, 100%.
Because, I mean, anyone can run a cheap ad campaign to get 1,000 people to download a free sample chapter, right? And then those people just immediately delete it.
Happens all the time.
But getting roughly 60 people scattered all across the globe to invest hours of their finite lifespan to finish your entire thesis.
It's massive validation.
It really proves the independent model works. But what fascinates me is the mechanics of reaching a 23-year-old in New Zealand and a 59-year-old in Benin at the exact same time.
Right, because a traditional publisher would say your target demographic is entirely too broad.
Exactly. They would tell you to pick one lane and stay in it.
But a traditional publisher looks for a specific niche, whereas Apovi utilized a portfolio approach.
A portfolio approach, how does that work?
Well, he recognized that a single individual is multifaceted. The 30-year-old professional who needs to learn artificial intelligence today might be the exact same person who needs a mental health resource tomorrow.
Oh, that is so true. We aren't just one thing.
Right. By building a diverse catalog, he isn't just casting a wide net, he is creating a self-sustaining algorithmic ecosystem.
Oh, I get it. Because if a listener finds value in one of his business books on Spotify, the algorithm immediately suggests his tech books to that same listener.
Exactly. The cross-pollination builds an empire organically.
That is brilliant. Let's actually look at the mechanics of those specific books then, starting with the tech catalog. Because honestly, teaching highly technical concepts purely through audio seems incredibly difficult.
It does. But he tackles this head-on using his computer science background. He starts with a book called How to Use AI Without Coding.
Which targets a very specific fear people have.
Exactly. The friction point, preventing mass adoption. The myth that you need to be a software developer to leverage large language models like ChatGPT or Claude.
I always think of using AI, well, not as programming a machine, but as delegating tasks to a brilliant but incredibly literal-minded intern.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah, like you absolutely do not need to understand how the intern's brain is neurologically wired, which would be the equivalent of the back-end coding.
Right, the model training.
But you do need to know how to give that intern crystal clear, unambiguous instructions, or they will just return a chaotic mess.
Which is the exact premise of his follow-up book, How to Master Prompts.
Okay, so he goes deeper.
Much deeper. He moves far beyond basic instructions. The document outlines that he teaches advanced frameworks like prompt chaining, meta-prompting, and multimodal prompting.
Okay, those are heavy concepts to drop on an audio listener. Let's actually break those down a bit
Yeah.
because throwing out terms like prompt chaining sounds super intimidating if you are just, listening in your car.
That is a very fair point. To understand prompt chaining, just imagine you want the AI to write a comprehensive marketing strategy.
Okay, I'm with you.
Instead of asking for it in one massive confusing prompt, you chain them. You first prompt the AI to analyze your target audience.
Got it.
Then you take that specific output and use it as the input for the next prompt, asking for content pillars. You chain the outputs together to force the AI into logical, sequential reasoning.
Oh, wow. That is so much smarter than just hoping it figures it out all at once.
And what about meta-prompting?
Meta-prompting is essentially asking the AI to act as an expert prompt engineer and write the optimal prompt for you, based on just a vague idea you have. So you use the AI to tell you how to talk to the AI. That's incredibly meta.
It really is. And finally, multimodal prompting involves feeding the AI different types of data simultaneously,
Like what kind of data?
like giving it a photograph of a messy spreadsheet and a voice memo at the same time, and asking it to synthesize both into a clean text report.
Okay, that level of technical maneuvering is brilliant, but it immediately highlights the inherent limitation of the audio format, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, if I am driving down the highway listening to the theory of prompt chaining, I cannot actively test it out on my steering wheel.
Right, you can't type while you drive.
Exactly. You are absorbing the concept, but you are losing the physical application. And this raises an important question. How do you fix that disconnect?
Well, Akpobi anticipated that exact friction. His solution was to bridge the audiovisual divide by pairing the audiobook theory with a companion book.
A companion book?
Yeah, a physical or digital workbook that includes 31 progressive exercises. It is a masterful use of format synergy.
Oh, that is smart. So you utilize your liquid time during the commute to absorb the overarching theory.
Right, the why behind the technology.
And then, when you finally have that solid block of time at your desk, you open the companion book and execute the tactile, hands-on practice.
Exactly. It essentially turns a passive commute into a prep session for active, deep work.
That is fantastic. And he applies the same hyper-practical approach to his business catalog as well, right?
He does. The document highlights his book, How to Launch a Successful Print-on-Demand Business.
Which stems from his own experience starting on Zazzle back in 2016, if I remember correctly.
That's right. And that specific audiobook has racked up over 20,000 listening minutes on Spotify alone.
20,000 minutes. That is serious retention.
What drives that level of retention is his focus on the underlying mechanics of commerce. He doesn't just teach the superficial tactics of uploading designs to a server.
He focuses on the actual business strategy.
Right? The book heavily emphasizes deeply analyzing and understanding audience needs.
Yeah.
But he takes it a step further by essentially open sourcing his entire business model through his meta guides.
The meta guides, yeah. How to write, publish, and sell your book, and how to create and sell audiobooks.
Yes.
That is the part that really stood out to me. He isn't just sitting there saying, hey, audiobooks are great. He is handing the listener the exact blueprint of his own global distribution strategy.
Detailing how to utilize platforms like Findaway, Hoopla, and Bibliotheca.
Exactly. Giving away the secret sauce like that, it builds immense authority and trust with a listener. It completely transforms the author from a distant expert into a transparent mentor.
Precisely. But here is where the portfolio approach reveals its true depth.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because if you are constantly consuming content on AI algorithms, prompt engineering, and scaling print-on-demand businesses, you're eventually going to hit a wall.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the hustle cannot be perpetual.
No, it absolutely cannot.
Even if you are a computer science expert architecting an international publishing empire, the reality of the human condition eventually catches up with you.
Burnout is real.
It is. And the author's catalog actually mirrors that inevitable burnout.
It does. Amidst all these heavy tactical manuals, the catalog features an audiobook titled For the Days You Feel Lost.
Wow, that is quite the pivot.
It is. And the source text makes a point to note that this book explicitly avoids preaching miracle solutions or toxic positivity.
So no, just cheer up and hustle harder vibes.
None of that. It is designed simply to offer comfort, perspective, and a grounding presence during moments of profound overwhelm.
The irony is just incredible to me.
How so?
Well, the technologist who wrote the literal guide on communicating with artificial intelligence had to write a deeply emotional book to communicate with himself.
Oh, that's a profound way to look at it.
He even notes in the document that he listens to his own audiobook during his moments of doubt.
It is a stark reminder that technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
Absolutely.
But if we look at the mechanics of why For the Days You Feel Lost is so effective as an audiobook, it highlights a unique dimension of the medium that physical print lacks entirely.
Which is what?
The human voice.
Ah, yes.
Reading text on a page requires the brain to actively decode symbols into meaning. It's a very internal, solitary process.
Right, you are alone in your own head.
Exactly. But listening to a voice bypasses that decoding process and taps directly into our oldest evolutionary frameworks for storytelling and empathy.
That makes total sense because when you are taking a quiet walk and listening to someone speak directly into your ears about navigating feeling lost, it creates this intense parasocial closeness.
You aren't just reading a book, you're being spoken to.
Exactly. It feels like a thoughtful conversation with a friend who genuinely understands your specific pain points.
It totally proves Povey's underlying philosophy regarding the portfolio approach. A truly successful modern catalog cannot solely optimize the worker.
It must holistically serve the human.
Right. The listener needs strategies for their business, but they also require solace for their anxieties, which is also why he includes titles like 10 Funny Stories.
Oh, I saw that. Just a collection of lighthearted, everyday misunderstandings.
Meant for pure relaxation. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do for your brain is to simply let it rest and laugh.
So true. We have spent all this time dissecting how this creator built his empire in the current landscape, but the source document also forces us to look forward.
It does give us a glimpse into the future.
Right, because if audiobooks have already evolved from a secondary thought to a primary medium, where is the technology actually steering us next?
What was fascinating here is that the future of reading is not going to be a battle for dominance between print, digital, and audio.
It's not a format war.
No. The future, as outlined in the text, is total format integration. And a prime example of this technological shift is Spotify's page match feature.
Okay, you have to explain the mechanics of that, because the concept sounds like science fiction to me.
It fundamentally changes the definition of reading. So imagine you are at home reading a physical paperback.
Okay, I'm holding a book.
Right. You get through page 42, but you realize you have to leave for work.
Time to commute.
You pull out your smartphone, use the camera to scan the physical page you are on, and the Spotify app instantly analyzes the text, locates that exact sentence in the audiobook file, and seamlessly resumes playing the audio in your headphones as you walk out the door.
Okay, my mind is a little bit blown. And it works in reverse. Like, I listen on the train, walk through my front door, and the app tells me to open my physical book to page 78 to keep going.
Exactly. We're looking at the complete dissolution of the boundaries between physical objects and digital media.
That is just incredible. The transition between the solid block of reading time at home and the liquid listening time on the commute becomes entirely frictionless.
Completely seamless.
That multimodal integration is brilliant for the consumer, but, I mean, it raises a massive red flag for creators, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, if this level of seamless syncing becomes the baseline expectation for readers, does this mean authors who refuse to adapt are effectively signing their own death warrants? Are print-only authors doomed to obsolescence?
The document suggests that, while doomed might be hyperbolic, authors who restrict themselves exclusively to print are placing an artificial ceiling on their global reach.
Because they just aren't adapting to how people live.
Exactly. A book is no longer viewed by the consumer as just ink on paper. It is intellectual property that must be accessible across various states of their day.
Right.
If an author ignores audio, they are completely cutting off the demographic of listeners whose lifestyles physically demand that cross-format consumption. You simply cannot reach the commuter, the runner, or the multitasking parent if your ideas only exist on a physical page.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've traced the evolution of the audiobook from a niche alternative to a foundational pillar of modern learning.
It really is a pillar now.
We've seen how independent pioneers like David Povey are leveraging this behavioral shift to teach complex, high-level skills, from the mechanics of prompt chaining to scaling a global print-on-demand business.
And serving mental health needs, too.
Exactly. And we've explored how emerging tech, like Spotify's Page Match, is erasing the line between the bookshelf and the smartphone entirely.
The boundaries are gone.
Ultimately, whether you are trying to master AI without writing a line of code, launch a new side hustle, or simply find a moment of grounding companionship with for the days you feel lost, the barrier between you and that knowledge has never been lower.
It's all right there waiting for you.
If any of these concepts struck a chord today, you should absolutely search for David Akpovey on your preferred platform, be it Spotify, Apple Books, or Audible, and let that liquid knowledge start filling the gaps in your schedule.
As we wrap up, I do want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, drawing a line between the two very different halves of Akpovey's catalog.
Okay, what are you thinking?
Well, we discussed how the true power of For the Days You Feel Lost relies heavily on the profound emotional closeness and parasocial comfort generated by the human voice.
Right, that connection you feel with the narrator.
But we also discussed the rapid, terrifyingly impressive advancements in artificial intelligence.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
We're quickly entering a reality where AI voice generation is flawlessly indistinguishable from human narrators.
Mm.
I mean, they are capable of perfectly mimicking breath, subtle cadence, and even emotional cracking in the voice.
Wow, a true collision of the tech and the humanity.
Precisely. So the question is, as these technologies fully merge, will we be able to form those same deep, comforting emotional bonds with a machine-generated voice reading to us in our darkest, most vulnerable moments?
That is a wild thought.
Or is there some invisible, ineffable magic in the human essence of the audio format that technology, no matter how advanced, can never truly replicate?
That is a heavy, fascinating question to ponder the next time you put your headphones on and hit play. Because at the end of the day, we are all just trying to make the most of the time we have, letting those liquid moments of connection and learning find their way into the cracks of our incredibly busy lives. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.